So this is why it's so important to take your favourite content creators and media outlets' first impressions and reviews with a pinch of salt, because I'm going to hold my hands up on this one. I was definitely right on a lot of what I said in that first video, but also on a few key things I was wrong. Right, Barney, how you doing? I've been using the S25 Ultra now for around about 2 weeks, and this is my real-world use full review. The good, the bad, and the intriguingly strange. If you like this sort of content, make sure you drop a like and join my now nearly 1 million tech army. I'm so humbled, so grateful to have nearly achieved this milestone. Hopefully it happens in the next few days. So one key thing I got wrong in my... Actually, I'm going to pop you down, Barney, before I start. One key thing I got wrong in my first impressions was with regards to the battery life of this little guy, or big guy. My thought process was 100% open and honest, stating that due to battery advancements over the past year or so, brands are, and this is true, packing 6,000, 6,500 and even larger cells into similar sized phones. And while I stand by this, and Samsung could have absolutely made this a complete unrivaled battery champ, battery life is certainly not disappointing, and in fact in testing and in daily use with always on display on, set to Quad HD resolution, 120Hz refresh rate, the whole shebang, I've been able to achieve 8+ hours of screen on time, which certainly shouldn't be sniffed at. Now, of course, some of that is down to the improvements in efficiency when it comes to the Snapdragon 8 Elite 4 Galaxy chip, but also what Samsung have done with their own optimization is really, really impressive for the phone's power longevity. Now, one such thing Samsung seem to have done here is tweak the screen brightness and reducing it across the board by default. Now, I don't have any specific testing on this. I have just noticed that when compared to the S24 Ultra and side by side to other flagships, it just always appears slightly darker. And I have to actually sometimes manually make it brighter. But what about other features when it comes to that display? Well, the anti-reflection coating, as seen on the S24 Ultra, has been nice again to use. It does make gaming and watching movies in certain harsher lighting conditions much more enjoyable, but a lot of hype was made around the Pro Scaler technology borrowed from their TVs. And in all honesty, this upscaling on a phone screen this size is not hugely noticeable to my eyes anyway. I'm glad it's there, but when viewing side by side again with last year's phone, the difference is minuscule. The Now bar is actually really useful. I think I've already used it more than the dynamic island on the iPhone, regularly for keeping updated with the football scores or soccer if you're in the US, controlling my music, using maps, and you don't even have to actually wake the lock screen to control it, which is pretty cool, as a double tap on each of the controls will also work too. Now, before we touch on the Now brief and the rest of the AI features, I wanted to touch on camera, because a lot of people have been wrong about this too. Firstly, it's well documented that we have an improved 50 megapixel ultra-wide lens, and quite simply you can achieve greater details in your shots, and it can allow in more light for better nighttime images and more impressive macro shots too. But the rest of the camera is basically the same, is what they say. In terms of hardware, yes, but there have been subtle changes to the image processing which can drastically change certain images. So while you do have the same 200 megapixel main, 50 megapixel 5x and 10 megapixel 3x telephoto lenses on top of that upgraded ultra wide, when snapping side by side with the S24 Ultra, often the latter model produces more realistic true to life shots thanks to a reduction sometimes in over sharpening that we found quite heavily on the S24 Ultra. And the colour science and white balance seems better on the eye too, which can really make or break a shot, especially with skin tones which now appear far less yellow. This theme runs through to low light too, with less haze, and nighttime video has significantly improved from last year. You can now shoot in log mode, which means if you're buying this phone as a professional filming tool as well, you will have far greater flexibility and control when colour grading, adding LUTs, etc. to really give your piece a distinctive look. And log is able to keep far more picture information in the highlights and the shadows, which can make for just better footage once edited. The processing on some of the selfie shots appears slightly better, but it's marginal, and I do feel we could have done with an update to that 12 megapixel lens. That, alongside the 10 megapixel 3x telephoto, do feel a little like they're letting the side down now. And still, when it comes to zoom shots, while as expected incredibly impressive compared to the latest iPhones, for example, are only really usable up to around that 30 to 50x, and then they just kind of fall off a cliff in terms of usable quality. I think at this point, until the hardware significantly improves in this department, 50x max digital zoom is more than enough. But my main complaint in this area is that I feel, and this is fairly universal actually in smartphone photography, especially in portrait shots, we need quicker shutter speed, or quite simply improved focus on moving subjects. I mentioned it in my first video, photos of moving subjects appeared better than on the S24 Ultra, and while this seems true for standard shots, and you do have burst mode with a swipe down, which takes multiple images, allowing you to capture the perfect shot on hopefully at least one of your shots, this isn't compatible with portrait mode, which still struggles here. Like with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it still falls behind some of the other Android competition in this department, and you'll only truly know the pain of this if you have a young family or pets that just don't want to sit still while you're trying to get that perfect cinematic photo. HDR is better this year with less noise in the shadows and more details in the highlights, and I do really like that Samsung have included the audio eraser here on video, similar to what Google did with the Pixel line and Apple with their audio mix. You can alter voice and background noise levels to make your audio just sound much more usable and professional. My only negative here is having the sliders similar to the virtual aperture in Expert RAW for portraits has a little more of a pro feel, as opposed to something that is a little more user-friendly with the ready-made, easily identifiable audio presets like on Apple's audio mix. And I say this because I think it would be better for the everyday person, as pros that would want to really play around with levels would probably just use an external mic anyways. So let's talk AI, because it's very heavily hyped. Starting with the now brief, and the sentiments I have for this run through most of the AI features. I like the theory of it, but in practice, I haven't really used it all that much. It may keep learning as I go and get more and more advanced, providing more helpful information, but currently, because I don't wear a Galaxy Ring or a watch for any sleep or health information, it really only gives me weather updates and suggests that I catch up on YouTube Shorts, despite having everything turned on in the settings. Likewise, the AI Select feature on the swipe out sidebar. I love the fact that this can analyse the screen and prompt actions based on it, but does it need to do a little bit more? Does it really do something that I can't already do in another way? The set as wallpaper can be pretty cool, and writing assist can be really helpful if you're writing an email and want to, as it says, fluff up the words a bit. Translate for a web page you may be viewing in another language may tickle your fancy, or going straight to an accompanying brand website from a YouTube channel might be useful. However, I could just use a wallpaper app or download an image and set it as wallpaper in probably a high definition. I would also 9 times out of 10 be looking at English-based content text, and it's having to swipe and press really much quicker than just typing the brand into Google and going there anyway. Creating a GIF from a YouTube video is intuitive, but I've probably only done that maybe once or twice since I've had the phone. And is using AI to search for things in your settings really majorly any different from any non-AI settings sections with a search bar? Basically, what I'm trying to say is, other than being a pretty cool party trick, are any of these AI features actually solving a problem that we have? And do they make the phone a significant jump over the previous one? Especially when said S24 Ultra will presumably be receiving some of this with a software update shortly. Not all, because some of it is chip related. By far the most useful AI feature still, in my opinion, is the circle to search, which was introduced last year, and I still use that very regularly. So overall, when it comes to the AI features, I'm left feeling slightly underwhelmed. Some are useful, don't get me wrong, but none feel necessarily ground shifting to warrant the amount of airtime they received in the launch. I also don't think the end user, you guys, actually care as much about phone artificial intelligence as brands seem to think that we do. Having useful software tricks and habit learning is a really nice addition to have, but I think, like with the 5G marketing of a few years ago, when push comes to shove, what us consumers are really excited about with new handsets is camera, battery, performance, and hopefully a nice little trendy update to the design thrown in for good measure. Let's not too deep it. I think keep it simple, keep focusing on those areas, and you'll sell a lot of phones. But on top of that, I don't think AI needed that level of airtime because the phone itself is great. Yes, they've made, in my opinion, a slightly less premium look to it, a slight downgrade, maybe less distinguishably, if that's even a word anymore. My head's gone, my brain's fried. Does it look like a Samsung Ultra anymore as much? I would argue maybe, possibly not. And don't get me started on the S Pen, which was a bit of a strange decision to drop a couple of those features. Bit of a clanger. But there are camera improvements and a battery upgrade, even if not hugely apparent on paper. And I love the new notifications and quick settings, and the performance with the Snapdragon 8 Elite 4 Galaxy is a significant jump. In testing, the chipset is more stable, has a higher peak performance, and the 40% enlarged vapor chamber means that heat can dissipate over a larger area, and thus the actual chipset can remain cooler for better output. So gaming is universally better, and you're also future-proofing yourself on additional technologies that may be better backwards compatible with that 8 Elite chip over the 8 Gen 3. In truth, for the first time, this really feels like a kind of mid-season refresh, and I feel that Samsung may decide to really hit a home run on the S26 series. That being said, as I said in my original video, unless you're sat on the S24 Ultra, then this might be just the upgrade you're looking for, because it's a brilliant phone and will be competing right at the top for the remainder of the year. If you did want to pick one of these up and wanted to pre-order, I do have a discount link in the video description below, so you can save a bit of moolah. Check out some of my other videos I think you might enjoy here, and like I said, like and subscribe. 1 million subscribers would be amazing. If we can round off this month with that, it would be beautiful. So let's try and do that. My name's Adam. You've been the best as always. I love me, leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT. Peace out.